What's going on, guys? Bladezilla here, and today we're taking a look at this beautiful limited edition R.J. Martin Shirogorov collab in this kind of maroon burgundy micarta with M398 Blade. Some of you may have seen this knife already briefly when I did my green micarta video. And fun fact, I've got all three of them beside me. And I'm doing a little bit of a series, and I'm going to try to drop kind of like a micarta Monday kind of thing. Try to put the three knives up. So anyway, I don't know. That's just something off the top of my head, but we'll see. Just a reminder, guys. A lot of the knives featured on this channel are available on my website exclusively, bladezilla.ca. And it has some F3s up. Looks like a F95 NL just sold, actually. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff on here. It's in Canada. It's ready to rock and roll. Lots of different knives. I have the pre-owned section where knives such as this will make their appearance. So there we go. Couple things about this knife. Limited to 300 pieces. They are individually marked, I believe. This guy's... I thought in the back of my head, I thought I saw the cert and it was like number 292. Where was I? Let's take a look here. I thought it was 292, which is just on the inside of the knife here. I don't know if I can get this to focus while I'm two-handing this, or one-handing this. I'm seeing 292. Cool. You're not going to see it because I can see there's a big shadow there. And this camera is freaking out. Or maybe you can, who knows. Anyway, it's 292, which is cool. And I don't actually know if there's 100 of each color or if there's 300 of each color. I'm gonna assume, like anything, there's probably 100 of each. That's kind of what they usually do for special editions. Boy, those roller bearings are just silk. Absolutely silky smooth. Okay, well, enough fanboying here. Let's get on with it. I'm going to show you all three. I'm going to measure this guy up, get some weight, all that good stuff. So let's get started. It's a casual conversation anyway. 8 3/4, maybe actually a little more, depending on how you look at it, but 8 3/4, obviously less than 9. 4-inch blade to the center of the choil. Handle should be 4 3/4. Yeah, about that, maybe a little more. Really good size-wise. Now, they did offer this obviously in 3 different colors. A green micarta, a burgundy micarta, or I guess they call this maroon micarta actually, but it's to me darker than maroon. And I do have an F95 NL that just came back actually from a bit of a trade-in. So I can kind of compare the two colors on that because it's a little lighter. I think they call that one maroon as well. So, or maybe it's burgundy. I don't know. Anyway. So we have the green, which if I'm releasing this in the right order, we should have that guy. You've seen that. I'm filming them all back to back to back. And then we have the black, which is this color here. Which is a beautiful... I seem to find more black R.J. Martins that pop up. It's kind of funny how that works, but I find, personally, I like the green the best because you see a lot more texture. And then probably the maroon, and then the black. But now that I'm looking at this black, whew, I haven't done the video on this one yet, but I see the rolls and the milling on that micarta, and it looks exceptional as well. That's a nice one. I like the blue. Blue goes with black really well. So does red. Red, black, gold, black. Anything goes with black. But those are the 3 colors. And maybe I'll flip them over just to show you the clips are a little different as well on all 3. And the other thing that's different is actually the pivot collar. So just for reference, there you guys go. We have kind of a maroon colored clip. And then as well, we have the pivot collar, which I'm going to show later, right? More detail. That'll match the clip, which will also match the back spacer. And the green, same thing. It's a blue color. And then blue on the back spacer. The black, I think it was blue. Yeah. Blue all around. Blue on blue. On blue. Ooh, that actually pops out of that really nice. Yeah, I'm starting to like this one a lot too. But anyway. So there's your 3 colors. Super cool knife. You know, it's totally up to you which color you think is the best and which you think is the worst. Action-wise, material-wise, fit-wise, they're all the same as far as I can tell. So, pretty cool. So anyway, let's continue on to the video. Do we want to see any comparisons on some other Shiros? Vote by clicking the like button. Yes or no, hit the like button. I'm just kidding. F95, let's do that. There we go. F95T CD, we've got our Stellar Sprint Run, and we've got our Neon somewhere in here. There we go. There's your 3 sizes, and remember, as we scale them top to bottom, the camera angle plays a big difference in how big they look. But for example, if I took these guys out of here, I move that down here, and this right here, and pop my handy dandy little Neon back here, well, it looks like a little baby. Looks like a little baby angel back there, doesn't it? So just keep that in mind. It's small. It's not the size of the blade, it's how you use it. Obviously, that's what she said. And then in terms of other beautiful collabs, we can probably look at the Sinkovich. We love that knife. It's one of my favorite all times. The Bio. And then we've got our Kami here as well. And what else do I have? We can show the Kami. For size-wise, both of those are collaboration pieces. And I have one other collaborations. Dr. Death, full tie, as well as a Dr. Death Arctic. Super cool knife. Love the Dr. Death. The thing I love about these is just the looking through the knife and you can see right through it. And then the pocket clip, you can see right through it too. And then with the Dama, especially on the Arctic, you see how the Dama just pops right through and you can see it from all sides. I think that's the coolest Dr. Death feature, is just the speed holes on there. I love that knife. And then what else do I have for collaborations? I think that might be it. The bios. Oh, I guess I could show it with an actual RJ Martin collabs that aren't soft overkills. So we have our Russian. Actually, let's move this up. We'll try to get them all on here. They're all essentially the same kind of side profile, but different locking types. RQ36 and Molten Overkill. Man, that thing snaps right out. So there, hopefully that fits on there. And now you're actually seeing, because they're all the same size knife, basically. And now you're seeing that the angle of the camera and how it pulls it kind of forward. So Russian Overkill on the top, Soft Overkill, RQ36, and Molten Overkill. A couple different blade steels, M398, M398. This guy's S110, and then Magna Cut on the latest version, which is pretty cool. And let's just slowly put these bad boys away. And then I could guess, you know, an F95, Silk Slim. Just a work of art all around. We've got 2 works of art here. Beautiful knives. They look fantastic. So there you go. I think that's enough Shirogorovs. Let's, we're not going to go now. Here's I've got a Grimsmill Rask. I never showed this, but there you go. There's a size comparison to a Rask. A lot bigger. A lot taller. A lot better. Honestly. There you go. Alright, well that's our big fancy comparison. Action-wise, well, we've got jimping on the spine, as we see. The jimping runs from the blade and actually kind of recesses into the titanium handles here, which is pretty cool. Peeking down in the blade, you can see M398, which will also be in the forward position up here on the top of the blade, which is essentially S90V, very similar. And Shiro doesn't really do a whole lot of M398 on production. It seems to be only in the special edition or collaboration pieces. But yeah, beautiful jimping. You can kind of, choke up on it. You can kind of go ahead and look at that kind of roll there, and you can go put your finger in front of it. It's very flat along the top of the blade, so it's pretty simple to kind of move forward and choke up on it, not a big deal. And then on the blade, see, it kind of comes in there. I don't know if that's focused or not, but it kind of just comes to a nice point. But it is a nice thick blade all around. So beautiful. We've kind of got a little bit of a satin top on the flats, a stone wash on the center of the blade, and then a kind of a mirrored edge, which is beautiful on the cutting edge. Hopefully you can see that. I don't even know if the camera's focused right now, but hopefully you can see that. It's beautifully done. Now, aside from that, we've got obviously, originally I thought this knife was like a liner lock because it feels a lot and looks like a liner lock. But to me, it's basically a frame lock that's inside a bit of a liner, which is cool. And I think in the original green micarta video, I just assumed it was a liner lock. And it very well may be. I don't know what they're calling this, but to me, it's basically a frame lock. And do we have an over travel stop, or do we even need it because of the... I don't think... Well, we probably do. I see a lock bar insert on there. And I don't see why you would need an over travel stop, because you have the micarta on the frame, so it can't physically move. But it is elevated as well. Listen to this click. Hear that puppy? It is elevated, so from the side profile, I always like to show this when I roll the knife. You can kind of see how it sticks up a little bit. And that, to me, is just a nice little edge to kind of find the lock bar. With its bevel on there, it's nice and smooth. And it's a fatter knife, so you don't really need to have that cut in the side of the frame here to kind of find that easily. You can find it with a glove on, you can find it raw dog. It's pretty simple. The obviously, this guy is cut internally, and I've talked about this in a couple different knives, and I'm kind of curious your guys' opinion. Does a knife feel any different when you have the lock bar cut out, at a certain way? Like, is it, I'll show you what I'll show you. So on the original Dr. Death, for example, see how that lock bar cutout is internal, right? And then I talked about in my video that they changed that on the third one and made it external. See how see the cutout? And I noticed pushing this lock bar was just easier on the Arctic than it was on the original. And dimensionally they're very similar. So I was like, I wonder if this is something that I'm just totally ignorant of. If having that in that kind of scenario is a heavier push versus when it's the other way. It feels normal to me, like no issues to access, super smooth. That's an interesting observation. If we're looking at the knife for its hardware wise, so it's Thai hardware, we've got that cool colored pivot system on there, which is awesome. It's captive, so which means underneath this cap is a little ball bearing that this will sit on so it doesn't spin around. And then the actual hardware is on the back to take it apart. Now you'll notice too, so it's a flathead, or Shirogorov's tool. Don't use a flathead, don't mar it up, get the tool. And then we have their custom division bit kind of hiding in the back here, this little guy. So that's a reverse bit. So you will need the CD bit tool, which is, drop the penny, right here. And this is what that tool looks like, and it just has a reverse bit inside it. And if you don't know what the bit looks like, think of it as a punch with a bit of a Dremel channel in the middle. That's what the bit looks like. It goes around that little circle there. Really cool. The pocket clip, I would imagine, is attached internally. And if I look I can't even see. I'm assuming it is. I don't know how else you would put it on there. I don't see any screws underneath. I think it is, and it's like inside and behind the back spacer, maybe? I don't know. Internally, when you look at this, obviously there's a lot of skeletonization on the titanium, which looks great. It's functionally very light. I think it's like a 5... No, it's got to be less. 4.5 ounce, maybe. I think it's a 4.5-ish ounce knife. It's not heavy. And I'll wait here in a second. But inside you can see there's actually the micarta on the knife that you can see through the scale. So it's not a heavy knife. Comparatively, obviously, being a 4-inch blade, you'd expect it to weigh, at the golden rule, 4 ounces. But internally, you can see there's some scale you can look at inside. It's a work of art internally. It looks great. I love it. So, it's not bad. We've got a nice little drill through on the back spacer that goes through for your lanyard hole. And it's very resemblant of the Stellar that I show all the time on this channel, in that we have a little bit of a hole here. So sometimes when we look at this knife, we go, well, it's not as pleasant to the eye having that hole there, versus on, the Turtle and how it's built into the actual back spacer. From the side, you can kind of see, no holes, just a nice clean line, and the irregularity is actually the pattern of the tortoise shell, which is cool. I love it. Favorite knife ever. But we can see the lanyard hole is actually built into the back spacer. And it's kind of just hidden in there, which is so cool. And they do that on a lot of their production knives. On their Turtles and Quantums and stuff. But this guy, I think they're going for it's R.J. Martin's design, so it's a little more robust. More of a tool knife. Now, it is a titanium backspacer, as far as I know. Or at least looks like it. And I can't tell, no, it's not stonewashed. It's just looks like a darkened titanium backspacer to match the colors, which is done perfect all the way around. The micarta itself, you see all the little lines like a fingerprint. It really reminds me of the Russian Overkill when you actually look at it, and I'll show that a little closer. And I apologize, I haven't cleaned it. This is my knife myself, so you see the pattern here under light. So you get like these micro swirls. That's what I'm talking about. There we go, you can kind of see it right there. That same pattern is actually in micarta, for crying out loud. And, if I put it back here, you won't really see it, but up close, you can certainly see that. It's so cool. In the micarta, they've obviously done some more milling underneath the clip as well. Lots of room for your jeans or dress pants, board shorts, whatever you want to carry this knife with, to fit underneath there. It's a nice little feature. I love seeing that kind of stuff. And then, oh my gosh, look at that. Look at the tooling work to get that down. Oh, that's cool. These are things I don't really notice at first. And then you have one under the camera with a bunch of light on it, and it just pops right out. It's like all these lines. Oh, that looks so good. Nice and smooth, no sharp edges. The nice thing about micarta over time is it kind of wears in and gets like a patina to it. And I think you actually are supposed to add a little oil to it, I believe. Or, just work out, shoot some hoops and sweat on it and humanize it. Don't do that. Strong detent, and with these collabs I always like to show this. But check out this flex in the detent as I apply pressure. So this guy is tuned, like R.J. Martin's, so that it doesn't fail. So even with the lightest break of the detent, it's going to shoot all the way open. I'm going to try to just break it right now, gently. This is as little pressure to break it as possible. There it goes. You can't do it any lighter. Like for me, flick open and it hammers out. And I always like to show this. Look at where the flipper tab is. It's ahead of the center point of the pivot. Not by much, but by a little. So when I talk about that, I always throw this knife on the channel and I say, look at the Dr. Death. How the flipper tab's behind the pivot. The further it is behind the pivot, the lighter it feels. The slower it's going to shoot out. The more forward in front of the midway point, the quicker it's going to hammer out. It's just, right? Because you're just putting more force into it. This is comfortably at a nice sweet spot and feels great. Stiff detent, just pops right out. It's one of the better feeling RJ Martin collabs, honestly. The Soft Overkills might actually feel the best to an authentic RJ. The Molten Overkill's pretty close as well, though. Russian Overkill to me was a little light. The RQ36 was a little light. Yeah, and the Molten Overkill feels really good as well. But that's a frame lock. This is, I guess, a frame lock, kinda. Another thing. So under the backspacer, so obviously it looks good. It's 3D milled and all that stuff. Looks great. As we roll down here, it's a Shiro, so it's going to be dead center. But not only is it dead center, they add emphasis to this backspacer that you don't really see in a lot of other designs. Tolerances here are aerospace grade, and not only is it centered with this little block inside the backspacer, not giving it any room to be anything but center, but if we look underneath it as well, you'll see underneath there's also centering lines both back here as well as up here, or at least on the green micarta that I have that. Let's grab my light again here. Let's take a little peek inside. Hopefully you can see the channels in there. Wow. Jeez. They don't have to do that, guys. Like, they could literally not machine any of that, and you'd never know. But to me, it's like these little details that just add to the overall piece that makes it look incredible. Like, that is so cool. That's one of my favorite features of this, is literally looking inside it. Man. The roller bearing system, it's incredible, and if this is your first Shiro video, Shiro kind of does, I guess, 4 bearing systems, 5 really, and there's some variations of each. But single row bearings, which is kind of your standard bearing, ball bearing on a track. Your multi-row bearings, which is pinwheel of 2 to 3 bearings in a line, kind of like the rays of a sun around a ring. Then roller bearings, which is this, which are needle bearings, or like hot dogs. And then there's double row roller bearings, which are typically found in their customs. And cut those hot dogs in half and position them instead of a line. You kind of position them in a pattern and add some surface area. So it's pretty cool. Super cool. From my perspective, I like them all. I don't have a favorite. But I really, really like the way roller bearings float. Now, it's like as drop shutty or not as you want. And with this, you should be able to park it without it falling. This one's a little light, I can tell. But that's its heaviest spot, and it's not falling, but a little bump. And it floats home. It's just so controlled. So beautiful. We've got RJ Martin on one side of the blade and Shiro on the other. So in this case, we've got the little Shiro bear up here, which looks nice. It's etched in there, so it's not going anywhere. And then on the flip side is RJM for RJ Martin, which is cool. And then I guess, negatives of this knife. Well, it's micarta, so micarta tends to show like any little detail. It tends to kind of scuff it up. Like, think of it as wax, right? It kind of easily shows any oil or whatever, which is fine. It hides it. It's a beautiful knife to be a user, to be honest with you. Not this one, but just micarta is just a beautiful knife to have as a user. The backspacer, in all of them, there's this gap in front of it. And I don't know if other people are talking about this. I don't know if it's a concern for anyone else, but it's just for me. I noticed there's a hole here between the backspacer and the frame that I wish was just filled up. It's really not a big deal. I don't know the process or why they did it, but it's there. and it's kind of whatever. You know, other people will say, well, how come these are here and how come we're not rounding off, like beveling behind the flipper tab? I don't know. I think it looks good. You know, it's part of the RJ Martin design. Having the jimping, having a little bit of grip here for your glove to catch on or utilize, I think it looks good. It matches the backspacer's pattern as well. But other Shirogorovs, we tend to see, let me grab this Hattie. We tend to see like a little bit of a pattern back here where the, you know, your finger can kind of fall into it. So it's kind of whatever. It's really not a big deal, but I just think it's just one detail that kind of sets it apart from a regular Shirogorov production knife. I think it looks great. I don't have any concerns with it. Now, a lot of people tend to try out the RJ Martin collaboration piece as their first Shirogorov with roller bearings because, you know, I know they're only a year or two old right now. I'm filming this in 2023, depending on which color. They're not that old, and they tend to be the least expensive barrier to entry to get into one of these. I've seen some, you know, if they're users and beat up blade, you can get them for $1,500 US. A nice mint example, you're looking at $2,000 to 2.2 depending on color. But still, you know, that's not a custom division knife at $3,500 to $4,000. Depending, obviously, or $6,000 in some cases. But it's a great price point to get into one, feel what roller bearings are all about, see if it's for you. You know, if you like RJ Martin's kind of layout, they look at first a little aggressive, but I'm telling you, you put this thing in your hand and it feels like you're holding a pistol. It just fits so well. The roll of the design up towards the flipper tab, it just holds you so well. All your fingers fit on the back of this thing. It's a thicker knife, so you've got good perch on everything. It just feels real nice. It wouldn't be a knife I'd want to wear, or not wear, carry with like NBA style, you know, basketball shorts. I think it'd be a little big, unless that's what you're going for. Maybe there's like a gym around there and you're just trying to flex on the ladies. Is that a knife in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me kind of thing? Obviously kidding, but you know, it is a big knife, bigger, and there's variations of it. So if you're not a big fan of the Micarta because it's a little thicker, well, maybe you look at the Molten Overkill, and or the Russian Overkill. Let's grab the Molten, because it is a thinner knife. This is the Molten. You usually can tell a lot about how thick a knife is just based on the backspacer, but it's a lot thinner, this guy, even with the inlays. You should be able to see that, which is cool. I've got, I think, 3 of these right now that are in queue. Just a quick little hint. There's a couple more coming to the site. There you go. But love it. I think this looks really, really sharp, personally. And then I was going to show you that F95 NL, because that one they actually call Maroon Micarta. And to me, this one's a lot lighter. So I think they call this guy, what, Maroon Canvas? Does that sound right? So this guy just came back. And you'll see how much lighter this is. There you go. And as luck would have it, honest to goodness, the camera is not really changing the color as it is real life, I guess, because of the 2 similar colors, but it is quite a bit lighter. And yeah, Micarta just over time just gets so nice. But like I said, the problem is you get any little scratch on it and it tends to show. So I guess the key is to scratch it and not worry too much about it. And over time, like, it's just such a beautiful design. So love the milling on it, the backspacer, all the beveling around the sides, the edges. Just so well done and so put together. It's just solid. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. For, you know, if you want to try roller bearings and maybe you want a user, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 user Shiro on rollers. It doesn't get any better than these, than the Soft Overkills. You can get some carbon scales, kind of from a secondary vendor. They are available. If you want to take off the canvas and put on carbon, certainly an option. So, I love that D10. Listen to this crisp, just boom. They're just so solid. Love it. They float home and they lock up. They're firm. They're not going to flick out on you or anything. There you go. So that is the Shirogorov Soft Overkill in Maroon Canvas Micarta. I've talked about the fit in hand. I've talked about the titanium backspacer matching the pivot collar as well as the clip. I've talked about the obviously lanyard hold, the custom bit, the fact that it's, I guess, a frame lock, the milling inside, and then the beautiful milling underneath the backspacer, which is not necessary but totally cool. The blade finish, the mirrored edge, M398. Such a killer package, man, for such a great price. Okay, well that is it. Appreciate you guys for checking this out. Don't forget, check out bladezilla.ca, where a lot of this stuff is featured. Check out the store, add me on Instagram, add me on TikTok, whatever you guys want to do. Send me a message and let's just talk knives. That's what it's all about. I'm an enthusiast too, so appreciate you guys for stopping by, and I'll catch you later in the week. Okay, peace.